Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Film for Fans podcast, your home for movie news, reviews, and movie fan views. That's right. This is the podcast from movie fans for movie fans. I am your host, Ryan Dunlevy, and joined by my co-host once again, Rob Dunham. How you doing, Rob?
Hello, everybody.
All right, so we got a great show. We're going to talk about Warner Brothers restructuring its deal following its HBO Max announcement. We will discuss watching movies on a Swedish island. We will play the location game. And we will be discussing what you can watch this month on Disney Plus and Peacock. So make sure you stay in tune for that. So, Rob, let's kick it off with our first news story. And this one I thought was probably the biggest story of the week. And that's Warner Brothers is planning to introduce a new payment structure with filmmakers, cast, crews based partially on the HBO Max streaming deals. Now, if you've been following along with our podcast, you will know that we've talked about this story a couple times. Warner Brothers has decided to put its entire 2021 movie slate on both HBO Max and in theaters. And this was not well received by some directors and some movie studios. And we found out partially it's because of the way their payments were structured. And they started making a lot of noise and a lot of complaints to Warner Brothers. So now it looks like Warner Brothers is addressing some of those complaints. So basically, to sum up the story, it's a little bit complicated, but to sum up the story, basically a lot of these studios and directors and things get paid. Their incentive structure is such that the better a movie does in the box office, the more likely they are to hit bonuses with the studios. And with the decision to move the movies for 2021 to both HBO Max and theaters, that's definitely going to depress the theater turnout, which would then hurt the studio's monies. So it looks like Warner Brothers, at least in part with Legendary Studios, has agreed to restructure that to lower the amount of box office revenue it would take to earn bonuses and to include streaming as a part of that. So Rob, what did you think about this?
I think it was inevitable that we were going to see some change and shift in the dynamics when it came to pay structure, just because this is an entirely new paradigm with the release of movies. So it couldn't stay the same because there was just no way that the people involved in the movie were going to make anything. So the issue is, how much are they going to make? Is it going to be sustainable? I don't think, even in the worst case scenario, I don't see like movie theaters be going away and never being a thing again. Like they'll be back in some form, without a doubt in my mind. I did find the one quote in the article interesting. Dennis Villanueva said, "I strongly believe the future of cinema will be on the big screen, no matter what any Wall Street dilettante says." Why don't you tell us how you really feel, Dennis?
He's not only my second favorite director, but he's just as good a quote as my first favorite. Yeah. Gotta love it.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan and Villanueva definitely both have very strong feelings about cinema and film and how things should be done.
Yeah,
in the correct way. So I'm not surprised to hear from him on this. I guess this is all brand new, so it's hard to really say how successful this new structure will be and this new stratagem for the movie industry with paying directly based on the streaming, but I guess we'll find out because we'll start to see some numbers here. Obviously, we're just not seeing a whole lot yet because we're right at the beginning. So it's going to be hard to evaluate for a little while.
Yeah, what's interesting to me is that I would have thought that Warner Brothers would have entered into some of these negotiations before they went and announced all of this, their plan for 2021. I mean, it seems like that would have been a major hurdle that might have come up in one of their meetings to say, hey, what do you think the studios are going to think about this? It appears like that really wasn't the case. Like they just made up their minds and then are dealing with the fallout afterwards. So I think it's at least positive that they recognize that some of this other stuff has to change. And if they want to keep their relationships with studios as good as Legendary, for instance, that they're going to want to change up how things work. And it does make sense.
I think some of
So,
it would have to be like strategy and negotiation too, because
yeah.
in that world, there's a lot of high-powered back and forth trying to get the upper hand in negotiation, and it could have been a power move in the first place by Warner to put that announcement out there to try and weaken the ability of studios to negotiate or bargain back and forth. But they had to do something. They couldn't just let it sit and not address it. So
Yeah.
I guess like I said, we'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they said it's unclear if other studios are going to engage in the same type of deal, or if this is going to be a universal thing, or what. So, but hopefully they all get along, and we get to see all the movies we want, and it's powerful going forward. So
Let's just be friends, everybody. Friends who watch and make movies.
Yes. So it's fun to get a look at sometimes at the back end of movies and how movies are made. But speaking of movies being made, let's move on to our second story, which is a whole ton of Netflix movies are coming this year. Like a lot. Like one every single week,
I've been looking forward to this.
according to Netflix. So, yes, Netflix teases a massive 2021 movie slate in which they plan on releasing a movie every single week. And they actually just released a trailer with their film previews. So they're going to have a ton of big name actors in some of their movies, like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Jennifer Lawrence, Melissa McCarthy, Halle Berry. Some of these are actually making their directorial debuts. You're going to have Gal Gadot, Ryan Reynolds as well. But a lot of movies, one every single week. So there is a ton of stuff. We'll link to the article that talks about all of the movies that they have, including a Lin-Manuel Miranda directorial debut. Some of them appear intriguing, but I got to tell you, my initial thought on this is one of my complaints about Netflix is that they have too much content and they haven't always put in the work to make the content they have as strong as possible. And I've thought similar things about their movies in that they're just, I haven't seen one that's been really, really strong yet. And my concern is with hearing they're going to release this many movies coming up, that we're going to get the same thing. We're going to get a ton of like okay to decent movies and very few really good ones. What was your reaction to this?
Yeah, but to be honest, when I look at the article, the first thing that jumps out at me and scares me is Melissa McCarthy and Octavia Spencer's superhero debut.
That's a little bit scary. Yes.
That may be one I don't watch. But yeah, there's certainly a lot of star power in here, and we've seen other Netflix movies already with Charlize Theron and also last year Ryan Reynolds with Six Underground and Will Smith with Bright. There have been Netflix movies that have had big stars, and like you said, they've been good to probably slightly above average. I don't think there's been any that have been great necessarily. You also think of The Irishman, which came out, which had like everyone in it, even though they were de-aged to 30 years younger than they actually are. And it was 12 hours long, but that's besides the point. I think there's a lot of room for growth. I do think that over the course of their movie production, the quality has slightly gone up. I think that it is increasing, but I think that it's just going to take time to keep building and building. And the fact that there are so many heavy hitters involved in these movies, I think is definitely positive. And we'll just have to see, because you never know when someone is going to nail it when it comes to a movie.
Mhm.
I think the odds are higher than most that a lot of these movies will be good. But like you said, I don't know if they'll be great. But there is certainly a space for good movies because there are a lot of not good movies.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's been a lot of terrible Netflix movies either. So I think they're very much in that middle area.
I worry that
Not you, Adam Sandler.
they're going to water down their content. Like if
Yeah.
you have a movie coming out every week, how are you going to possibly promote your better ones? I mean, you assume you've got that many movies, then not all of them are going to be of the same budget, the same quality, the same kind of star power. Like, how are you going to put enough weight and momentum behind all of them to be able to do that? It's ambitious, but I think more does not always equal better.
Yeah. Live from Lin-Manuel Miranda's garage. Sock Puppet Theater. Can't wait.
Yes.
It's anything that will come out will be better than what I watched last night. That's the teaser for later.
Oh yes, you stay tuned for hear this. I'm looking forward to this one too. So,
also shout out to any of the group from the Tops Bunt section of Reddit who, for reasons unknown to me, decided to check out my podcast the other night. So
awesome.
Yeah, hopefully a couple of you will stick around, and it's a shout out to you guys out there.
Welcome.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go on to our third story, and this is kind of a fun story. Rob, do you want to take the lead on this one since you brought this one to the attention of the podcast here?
Indeed. Give me just 1 second because I am hyper prepared right now.
Yes.
But essentially, there is a film festival, the Gothenburg Film Festival from Sweden, which usually takes place over there where they show a whole bunch of movies. And this year, in lieu of the festival and getting everyone together in a location, you know, with people all close to each other and stuff, they decided to send one person to an island in the North Sea with the lighthouse. And there's a picture of this island on the article that I'm sure we'll link. It's terrifying. Like in the middle of this black, dark sea with nothing around it on these craggy rocks. It just looks scary. And I was just wondering, like, they're gonna send this person to this island for 7 days with only movies to watch. And I'm assuming they're gonna like have food there for them so they don't die.
Yeah, I would
probably just movie popcorn and like snow caps. That's all you need when you're watching movies. If it was me, they would have butter for the popcorn. If it was Ryan, that we would not have butter for the popcorn.
No butter.
But yeah, it made me really think, if you were in that spot and you were surrounded by the howling winds and the darkness and the scariness and sea monsters, what movies would you want to watch? Would you want to watch things that would heighten your feeling of existential dread? Would you want to watch things that make you happy and take you to a place that is not where you are? I just want, like, you're also by yourself, so you can really watch whatever you want. There's no other person next to you that you have to worry about their sensibility. You can just go ahead and throw whatever you want on there. So give me a couple movies that you would watch if you were forced to be alone by yourself on an island in the North Sea in the middle of the night.
I think you'd have to watch Castaway. I think you'd have to watch The Perfect Storm. I think you'd have to watch The Lighthouse.
The Lighthouse is cheating, and that was going to be one of my answers. So thanks for that.
Yeah, no. If I were doing this, I'd want like epic adventures. So I would think, like, if I'm on an epic adventure, I need epic adventure movies. So I feel like I would have to take the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Probably not the Hobbit trilogy.
Not the Hobbit trilogy. I mean, I'd be okay if it were there, but like, yeah.
That's what we put on when we're ready for a nap. Sorry, Smog.
Yeah, so epic adventure stories. That's what I need. I need epic adventure stories. So I might even take like The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I would I would take some submarine movies too.
Life Aquatic.
get that sea vibe.
Yeah.
You know, Hunt for Red October, Crimson Tide, U571. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have to go with, since we're going to be there for 7 days, I think I want a bunch of series,
Mm.
like movies where I can watch from start to finish. And there's something when you watch a series that you can get a different view of things if you're watching them like all the way through in a short amount of time. And you already mentioned Lord of the Rings, but I would also think like Harry Potter,
Mm.
the whole 8 movie series there. I would also go with all the Star Wars movies. Why not throw all the Star Trek movies in there?
Yeah.
Let's go with some Fast and Furious, because at some point we need to turn our brain off.
Yeah.
Uh,
At some point.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, if you want to knock out just a couple days, you got to go with all the James Bond movies, of course,
Yeah.
from start to finish.
I like it.
Yeah, I think what I mentioned would almost take up 7 days, so
I think you might.
you wouldn't have a whole lot more left to watch after that.
Yeah. No, that's good. So yeah, check it out. This there's still time to apply, actually, because I think it's the 17th is the deadline to apply.
Excellent.
So if you're listening to this very soon after it comes out, you probably still can apply to be the one person at the Göteborg Film Festival out on your little island in a lighthouse. So,
yeah, enjoy the craggy rocks and terrifying death mermaids that will probably float up on shore.
yes, and no guarantee that that rock is still going to be above the water line by the time you're done.
You may or may not lose your mind, have 2 personalities, or be visited by Willem Dafoe spouting sea shanty rhymes at you. No guarantees.
Those are the movie The Lighthouse references, and
which you should watch just because it's a trip.
It is. All right, so let's get into our first discussion item for today. So we're going to play a game, and this game is called On Location. And so we're going to play this kind of in 2 different ways. I'm going to play it one way with Rob, and Rob's going to play it a slightly different way with me.
Certainly does not have anything to do with the fact that we did not discuss it until right before we started filming and realized we both interpreted the instructions differently.
No, that couldn't possibly have happened.
That would never happen. We're like professionals.
We are professional
podcasters. If that did happen, we need to fire our production staff.
I know.
They're really slacking.
Seriously. The $0 we pay them.
Yes, and the fact that they are non-existent and invisible is also hurting us right now.
I might just punch myself in the arm. That's about all I can do for that.
Sometimes Tyler reviews movies for me. That's a Fight Club reference, if anyone does not know that.
All right. So the way this is going to work is I will give Rob a movie, and then Rob is supposed to tell me of the various scenes in that movie, what locations were they on? Not where they were filmed necessarily, but where they took place. You know,
where the movie says they took place.
For instance, if we were doing, let's say, the Fellowship of the Ring, we would say Hobbiton instead of New Zealand, because it's where it took place in the movie, not where it was filmed for me.
When we get to me, we're going to do the opposite.
We're going to do the opposite. It is where it was filmed and not where it is in the movie. So
this is not going to be confusing at all to the listeners, so that's great. That first rule of podcast, make sure things are easy to follow.
Yes. All right. So I will give Rob the first one, and I will once again, I will explain the instructions. So the first movie I'm going to give you is Skyfall. Okay. So your job is to tell me, in the movie Skyfall, where does James Bond's character and the various scenes in the movie, where are all the different places where they take place? So you get points for each one that you're able to name.
Do you have an amount from Skyfall?
Let's say because some of these I could go more specific or less specific. So let's say between 5 and 7, depending on how specific you feel like getting.
All right. I think I'm pretty confident about Skyfall.
All right.
This other one that you told me, I'm not confident at all because I'd never keep them straight. But
I will give you the plot of it first to keep you straight.
okay, Skyfall, London,
Yes.
Macau,
Yes.
Hong Kong.
No.
Where's that scene? All right, I'm gonna skip that one for now.
Okay.
Scotland,
Yes.
the Scottish Highlands to be specific.
Yeah.
The scene with the digital billboards is, I thought that was Hong Kong, but you're saying it's not.
It's not Hong Kong.
It is Asia.
Yes.
Is that in Beijing?
No.
Man, I'm running out of places. Tokyo?
No.
I have no idea that.
Okay.
I really thought it was Hong Kong, so that's a fail by me.
Right. There's two other locations.
Okay.
And if you get neither one of them, do they specifically tell you with like an overlay where it is? And I'll give you some hints on this one. The first one is the opening sequence, like the opening scenes of the movie, when he stumbles upon the agent who's been shot, and then him and Money Penny have to chase him down. The whole thing where he's, he jumps on the train and then she shoots him and he falls off, and that's he dies. That's the first one. And the second one you're missing is the scene where he first meets the villain on his island.
Yeah. Does the first one take place in Germany?
No.
It is Europe.
No.
No. Never mind then.
Continent right first, and then we'll go from there.
Okay then. Let's see. The other one. It's an island.
Yes. Yes. This one would be pretty hard. I would accept a couple of general answers.
Where is that
might
island?
even give you island, but we'll see.
I'm gonna just go ahead and let me know what the other two are.
So the opening sequence takes place in Turkey.
Okay.
So the whole thing takes place in Turkey. The island is Hashima Island off the coast of Japan. In the movie, it's not clear whether it's basically they take a boat from Macau over there, so it's off the coast of Japan, China. So anywhere in there. And the city you were missing was Shanghai. It takes place the lit tower scene takes place in Shanghai. I
would like to point out that Turkey competes in the European Championships in soccer, so I'm counting it as Europe.
All right, fair enough. It's close. It's on the borderline. But I'm not giving you a point for the continent.
I get like a quarter point, maybe.
All right, fine. So you get 3.25 points for
awesome
Skyfall.
Sweet.
All right, you're up.
Let's go with the easier one, I think.
Okay.
And since we didn't, talk about the rules, I'll give you half a point for where the movie says it is and half a point for where it actually was.
Okay.
But two of them are, well, at least one of them is a gimme because it's pretty hard to fake the place they were at.
Yeah.
So, The Rock is where?
The Rock is Alcatraz Island, San Francisco.
Correct. So that's a point. San Francisco in general is used throughout the movie in a whole bunch of different places.
Yes.
What other place in California has a majority of the scenes from the movie?
Let me see. I'm trying to think. Is it LA?
It is. And there's no real specific there's just a whole bunch of small scenes
Yeah.
that are all throughout, shot like exteriors and stuff in Los Angeles. And the last major setting in the movie is at the end. Do you remember where the movie says it is? And do you know where it actually was?
It's on a beach. They're on a beach. Shoot, it's been too long since I've seen The Rock.
They're not on a beach.
They're not?
No.
No. They're driving in the car, aren't they?
And they go somewhere.
Yeah, I was confusing two movies. Vegas?
It is not Vegas.
Okay. I remember because they're looking at, and he's like, do you want to know who killed Kennedy?
Yeah, they're looking at the microfilm. And he does, in the movie, Sean Connery's character tells him, or either tells him or it's written on the note.
Because they go find it like on a leg of a church.
Yeah.
Oh man, no, I
can't
remember where that's at.
So the movie says it's in Fort Walton, Kansas.
Okay.
What state do you think it was actually filmed in?
I'm gonna go with Oregon.
It's actually California. The entire movie, The Rock, was filmed in California.
Yeah.
And that scene was filmed in Ventura, California.
Okay.
Standing in for Kansas.
There was really no need to go to Kansas just to film inside a church.
Like, we got to be real method with this. We got to go all the way to Kansas. Sorry, Nick. Just got to do it for the art, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, Nick Cage. Oh, we're going to talk about you more, my friend. Just
every week, man.
Bit.
He just worms his way in every single week.
Oh, my gosh. Legend.
All right. So back to the second movie. Again, you have to come up with the locations that the movie indicates it was in. So this is Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Now, to keep them straight, Ghost Protocol is the one where he is in prison. They have to get him in prison. They blow up some buildings, and they assume that he's responsible, and he has to go underground. They disavow all the agents. He has to go underground. It's also the one where he's climbing on the external of a skyscraper. It's got Lea Seydoux in it as one of the bad characters. All right, do you know which one I'm referring to at this point? Okay. So name for me the locations in this movie.
Well, the skyscraper is that rich Middle Eastern country. Thankfully, there's only like one of them. I always get them mixed up. Is Abu Dhabi the place with all the giant skyscrapers, or no?
Not in this case. It's a good guess. It's a good guess, but no.
Oh, what's that other one? It's not the United Arab Emirates.
It is.
Oh, it is. I mean, it is the United Arab Emirates. That's what I meant to say. Of course.
City is Dubai.
Okay.
In the United Arab Emirates.
I think that's why I always get confused, because I think of Dubai and the United Arab Emirates as separate entities when one is actually inside of the other.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'll give you that because you got that one.
Yeah.
Right.
The other stuff, is Paris involved in this movie?
This one does not take place in Paris.
Okay.
There's a scene where a really famous building gets blown up and he ends up in the hospital.
Yeah, I just have not watched the Mission Impossible movies enough times to keep them separate in my mind.
Yeah.
So what do we got?
Okay. So the opening sequence where Josh Holloway from Lost gets killed by Lea Seydoux's character takes place in Budapest, Hungary.
Okay.
Then they go to Russia and they break Ethan out of prison in Russia, and then they blow up the Kremlin.
Yes.
So there's a Moscow, Russia scene. You already got the Dubai, UAE. Then they go to India, to Mumbai, which is where they do that whole like the magnets, I'll catch you scene.
Mm-hmm. This is telling me I need to watch all the Mission Impossible movies again.
Yeah. And then they wrap up the movie when the team meets after the movie is over. They wrap up in Seattle, Washington.
Nice.
All right. So you get one of those.
Sweet. That was excellent. I'm really good at guessing. So the other one for me is the Shawshank Redemption.
Okay.
And this one is intentionally tricky because none of the places where the movie says they're actually happening are where they're actually happening.
Yeah.
Do you know in the book Rita Hayworth in the Shawshank Redemption, the short story, where they say Shawshank Prison is?
It's in Maine. I
Yes.
want to say Portland, Maine.
Maine is close enough. I'm going to give you credit for that. Yeah. Do you know what state it was actually filmed in?
It was filmed in Ohio.
Whoa, good.
So check this out. I have a friend who, her and her husband lived in Ohio, in like either in the town or right next to the town where the hospital, the prison hospital, where the actual filming took place. Then they moved to Maine, right outside the town where the story supposedly takes place.
Nice. Yeah, and the town in or city or whatever in Ohio is Mansfield, Ohio.
Yes.
Okay, the beach scene that you were thinking of is at the end of this movie, I think.
Yeah, it's supposed to be in Zihuatanejo.
Yes, which do you know what country Zihuatanejo is in?
It's supposed to be in Mexico.
Yes. Do you know where it was actually filmed?
Where it was actually filmed, I want to say California.
No.
Okay. Then let's.
It actually was not filmed in the contiguous United States.
Interesting, but you still said United States. Puerto Rico.
No, but you're getting closer.
Virgin Islands.
Yes, the U.S. Virgin Islands. And you're not going to get this in a million years, but there was one other place that they filmed a couple scenes in, a state, and it's never mentioned, like, or even referenced to. I think it's just a place they shot some random stuff in.
Are we talking about the scenes where him going into banks and stuff? Or are we talking...
I'm not sure. That might be what they filmed there. I didn't give specifics on the IMDb page.
All right, so I'm just gonna guess the random state of Kansas again, because why not?
You're heading out there. It's actually Arizona.
Okay.
And Yuma, Arizona, to be specific. And I think that might actually be the bank scene. But I can't say for sure. So, okay. Sweet. We both failed successfully.
Yes. All right. Well, that was fun. I enjoyed that. So we'll have to try some more games here at a later time.
Apparently, the less we communicate, the better the games are. So yes. Let's keep on doing that.
Absolutely. All right. So now we want to move on to something we try to do at the beginning of each month is go over some things that are out on different streaming services and give our recommendations about what to watch on those particular streaming services. So today we are going to hit up Disney Plus and Peacock because we haven't done either of those before. So let's get to it. So Rob, you did Disney Plus and I did Peacock. So let's go through, and we both of these lists are going to be on our website, filmforfans.com. By the time you listen to this, both of them will be up and available for reading. So make sure you check out the full lists at filmforfans.com. But we're going to give you a couple of highlights off of our list. So Rob, go ahead and give us some Disney Plus stuff.
Yeah, so I would say the first thing with Disney Plus is there's a whole bunch of stuff on there that's going to just be up there and stay on there. Your Pixar movies, Disney classic animation, Marvel movies now, Star Wars movies, all that stuff is there. So I didn't necessarily look at those because they're just kind of steady. So I looked at things that are new since they debuted. And just a couple, and I've talked about, I think, these before in reviews or just in passing. From a watch list standpoint, but the movie Soul is on there. Pixar's newest movie, starring Jamie Foxx as the main character, Joe, who's a school music teacher, and has aspirations and dreams to be a world famous jazz musician. It's been his goal since he was a young child when his dad took him to a jazz club. And it seems like he just got his big break, and all of a sudden his world falls apart and he falls down a sewer drain, and he wakes up and he's not in his body. He's just a soul. And the movie is very funny and definitely can be relatable to kids, but it's also very deep on exploring some real serious philosophical issues when it comes to the concept of soul, when it comes to the concept of what makes a person who they are, the dreams that they have, the goals that they end up pursuing, what motivates all that, and what drives us. And I think it's a really good look at that. And it's by the same guy, Pete Docter, who directed Inside Out. And it's not a sequel to Inside Out, but it's definitely got a lot of the same feel and kind of exploring the same issues. And I would say Inside Out is similar in that it explored a lot of the inner workings of a person. But I think this goes even farther with it, a little bit deeper. So I definitely recommend it. And I think that it's a good movie for adults to watch as well as kids. And then one other one that I've really enjoyed recently was the movie Noelle, which you might want to wait until Christmas time to watch. But if you don't care about watching holiday movies outside of holiday time, you should give it a go. Bill Hader plays Nick Kringle, who is Santa Claus's son, and is assuming the role of Santa Claus and decides he doesn't want to be Santa Claus. So he escapes to, of course, Phoenix, Arizona.
Why not?
Which, is the ideal goal for anyone who wants to get away from a place that's cold. I think the only reason why he picks it is because he's seen a picture in a travel magazine that makes it look really warm and friendly. So he goes there to teach yoga. And his sister Noelle, played by Anna Kendrick, chases him down and has to save Christmas, and along the way discovers some things about herself that alter the course of her life, and Christmas as we know it will never be the same. Also, Billy Eichner is in this, and if you ever watch Billy on the Street, you should check him out in this because he's just hilarious, and I love him. And it's very fun to see him in a role where he's not just running at random strangers, screaming at them and waving dollar bills in their face. By the way, if you never watched Billy on the Street, you need to watch that because that's amazing. I think my favorite thing ever, and his sense of humor carries over into the movie, so that's why I think it's worth bringing up. My favorite skit ever on Billy on the Street is he runs up to a lady with $1 and he goes, "Name a woman for $1." Any woman. And the lady's just standing there like shocked and like can't move, and she literally for 30 seconds cannot name one woman.
Kind of like the Celebrity Jeopardy. It's like, put down a letter.
And by the time 30 seconds is up, Billy Eichner's just like, "No," and runs away with $1.
Oh.
No, what's on Peacock?
Okay, so now
Universal
one
overlords.
thing with Peacock is they have a free tier and then they have a paid tier. So some of the movies are on the free tier, some of the movies are on the paid tier. So depending on which version of Peacock you have, you may or may not be able to see these. So that's the one caveat with this. So the first one I'm going to do is Moonrise Kingdom. Moonrise Kingdom is a Wes Anderson movie. If you've ever seen a Wes Anderson movie, you understand that they will be different, that they will be very different. And Wes Anderson has his own unique style. I think that Moonrise Kingdom is actually one of the more accessible ones if you've never seen a Wes Anderson movie before. It may not be the best, or it may not be the first one you should see, but it's pretty accessible. It's about two kids who kind of like have an infatuation with each other, who decide to run away from home. And it's really endearing and it's lighthearted, and Edward Norton is great as the scoutmaster. But it's got this understated humor and this kind of naive joviality to it. But it's heartfelt, and it's a lot of fun. And if you are unfamiliar with Wes Anderson movies and you want to check this one out, one of the things to look for with Wes Anderson movies is look for his use of symmetry, the way he sets up scenes, and when he shows you a wide angle shot, it's almost always balanced. So you need to watch for and look out for Wes Anderson and his use of symmetry throughout the cinematography of the movies. But it's well written, it's fun, it's interesting, it's a pretty good family movie for the most part. I think it's certainly worth checking out. It's quite entertaining.
Yeah, Moonrise Kingdom is one of the ones I need to watch again, because the first time I watched it just made me very uncomfortable. And I think part of that was I was watching it with friends, and we went to a Blockbuster Video, which is a very old-timey sentence, and picked out this movie. And when it got to some certain scenes, I was like, this is awkward watching with other people. But yeah, it's still a good movie. It's Wes Anderson, so.
Mm-hmm. The next one I'll go with is Won't You Be My Neighbor? So this was the documentary, not the Tom Hanks one where Tom Hanks played Fred Rogers. This is the actual documentary about Fred Rogers' life. And it covers his whole career. It's fantastic. It's so well done. It gives you a lot of behind the scenes look at who he was and what made him what he was. I think one of the things that really stood out to me about this was you got to see a side of him that was fierce, that was super fierce, that was really tough, and was really passionate. You think of him as this nice, calm, reserved guy, but he was tough as nails. He did not play around. And just watching him, there's one scene in particular where he's testifying in front of Congress, and he's just like blasting the Congress people for stuff they're putting in front of children and how they're not protecting children. And just watch him come to the defense of children. It was just so cool to see. I mean, this guy had so many positive traits, and it's just an inspiring story to see.
Yeah, I actually saw that one in the theater, and what was really cool was there are people all the way from 20-year-olds to 70-year-olds in the theater watching this movie, and seeing the breadth of people that were impacted by him and his show, whether it was them or their kids or their grandkids, was something that was really meaningful to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so the last one I'll reference here is, I have to do it from a little bit of a nerd standpoint, is Serenity. So Serenity with Nathan Fillion, Summer Glau, a whole bunch of others. Basically, this is the movie that is based on the much beloved and far too short series Firefly, that has a cult following.
We are part of the cult. You will join. You will watch Firefly.
So basically, it's kind of like the condolence prize for all the fans of Firefly. Here, you got a movie. And so basically, the movie tells the story that was the show, but with a bigger budget. So it tells the story of an assassin is trying to track down Summer Glau's character, who's on the ship, the Serenity, and they're trying to avoid this. And so it's a really cool movie. It's a fun sci-fi movie. The characters are memorable and interesting. There's a lot of good humor in it. Interesting backstories, interesting plot developments, and how they weave the different characters in, and how they go about the movie. I think it was really well done, and it's a lot of fun. Now, you don't have to have seen Firefly to watch this movie. I think a comparable might be if you'd enjoy some of the things that Guardians of the Galaxy brings in, I think you could enjoy Serenity. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think that if you can watch the show before you watch the movie, you'll have a lot more context, especially in regards to what happens in the beginning of the movie. There's a lot more emotional weight if you've actually seen the show first, because the movie takes place after the show. So there's a lot of background that you'll miss out if you haven't actually seen the show. But I do think that they did a decent job of making it standalone as well. Like they had this tricky balance where they had to explain what happened in the show for everyone who had not seen the show, but still not like pander too much so that the people who had already seen the show didn't feel dumb. So it's a tricky thing, but I think they pulled it off pretty well. I think that you can watch it by itself. So I definitely recommend checking it out. And since you said that Firefly was a condolence prize, I would like to offer my consolations to everyone who misses Firefly.
Ah, yes.
It was so much more fun to say it that way than to just correct you immediately. English is hard, people, okay? Get off our back.
Whatever.
That's going to get edited out. Don't worry about it.
All right, let's go to the watch list. All right. I'm going to start out on this one because I want to give you some space for
we need it
for your review of one of your movies here. So a couple things I watched this past week was I got to watch 1917 again. I had recently picked it up and got to watch it again. The fun thing when you watch 1917 is it's designed to look like it was filmed in one continuous shot the entire movie. There's no cuts anywhere in the movie. Now it wasn't actually filmed like this. They actually did do cuts and different things. So one of the fun things to do when you watch the movie, since there's no visible cuts, is to try and figure out where they might have actually stopped the movie, where they might have stopped filming that particular scene. So that's a fun thing to watch. But it's a fantastic movie. It's an incredible journey and just a masterpiece of cinematography and directing. So that's one. Another one I watched, which is also on my list for Peacock, is State of Play. It's a movie about starring Russell Crowe, Rachel McAdams, and Ben Affleck, where two investigative reporters are tracking down a number of murders that are connected to a congressman. So it's one of those classic investigative journalism stories. It's a murder mystery. There's a lot of intrigue and suspense there, so that's worth a watch. And then I got to watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And it's such a good movie. I always go back and forth on Tarantino. Some of his movies I love, some of them I can't stand. This is one of the ones I love. He still needs an editor. There's so many films. Like, this is a nostalgia piece for old Hollywood. It really is. It's a nostalgia piece for old Hollywood. And it's clear there's just stuff in this movie that has nothing to do with anything other than Tarantino going, I want to show that. One of the classic ones is when there's a scene where they come up to Leonardo DiCaprio's character and he says, is it true that you almost got the role in The Great Escape? And then it shows Leonardo DiCaprio taking Steve McQueen's role and dubbing Leonardo DiCaprio into the Steve McQueen role in The Great Escape. It's a lot of fun for those of us who like The Great Escape, but it has absolutely nothing to do with the movie whatsoever. And he has a lot of those moments in there. So consequently, the movie is 2.5 hours long and really doesn't need to be, but it's really, really good.
Yeah, I just like to mention that we gained another podcast follower from the Top Spunt subreddit as we're recording. So, I'm out here doing work.
Yes.
Yeah, and they're excited to hear about my movie because I was actually discussing it with some of them on the Discord as I was watching this movie and sending them screenshots and videos because I just have no words for what I saw the other night.
All right, hit us up with it. Let's go.
There's a movie, or it might be a money laundering scheme. I haven't quite decided. Starring Nicolas Cage called Jujitsu, and Ryan actually teased us in a podcast a couple months ago, I think.
Yeah.
When he talked about that it was going to be coming out, and he had a little description of it, and the description did not do justice to the absolute insanity that I watched on screen, and. In lieu of starting with a review, I thought that I would just start by reading selected quotes from the script because
let's do it.
This will give you an idea of what we're dealing with here. Now, let's remember, these are things that actual professional people wrote down on paper and decided belonged in a movie. Who were those Jedi Knights that just took out my entire unit? This movie is not a Star Wars movie, so yes. Let's just say it's not about the plutonium levels anymore. My Geiger counter's going crazy. By the way, the Geiger counter appears to be like just a radar gun that's painted black. But we're just gonna move past that. Get off my piano. That's a Nicolas Cage quote.
Oh, no.
Also a Nicolas Cage quote. I'm the poet warrior in the sci-fi sense.
What does it even mean?
Thanks to you, we got to climb up this hill with the Geiger counters. And that, my friends, is Alien Politics 5 through 15. What does that mean? What are Alien Politics 1 through 4, and why do they not matter? Why is this? And the absolute winner, and the one that made me sick personally, because, it's game over. Ball and mitt. Game, match, set.
What?
Checkmate.
What?
And I did not misspeak. They actually said game, match, set.
So
which is not even the right order.
We're mixing multiple sports and activities, and we're not even getting the order in the sports and activities correct. Is that what you're telling me?
No one in this entire production realized how tennis works. No one.
No one.
Because they let this be recorded on film and released to the public.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
And I have to, it's unfortunate, but I have to let you know that the script is not the worst part of the movie.
Was there any actual jujitsu? I'm longing to hear.
There was jujitsu, sure, but most of the action appeared to be people flailing their limbs around, actually not hitting anyone and throwing themselves back from supposedly being hit. I don't think I saw a person actually get hit in the entire movie.
Interesting.
And I think a lot of movies do this. And in fact, some other movies have been called out for it. One that I can remember pretty vividly is a lot of people had issue with The Dark Knight Rises and some of the fight sequences with Bane and Christian Bale. But this was just a whole nother level. Like the very first fight scene, the guy reached out his arm to punch, and like the person he was punching, before the arm even got to him, threw himself backwards about 10 feet. I can't describe how awful the action was. The bad guy, we're gonna have to find a way to put a screenshot up on this or something. But the bad alien guy was like a guy in a suit whose face appeared to be the front of a PlayStation 4 controller. Like it was just like changing LED colors on the face shield. They're like Nicolas Cage is the good guy, bad guy's dad. I don't know. Like we don't really know if he's the good guy or bad guy because he has amnesia.
Of course he does.
They're speaking, they have a translator from the military who's speaking Burmese to a lady, and at one point says, no joke, like loon toon boon foon. His last comment to the lady in Burmese is, I like ladies with thick thighs. And then she says, it doesn't matter, you're all going to die anyway. Also, the translator is played by Crabman from My Name is Earl. If that gives you any indicator of what we're dealing with.
Of course, this movie stars Nicolas Cage.
This movie is the most. It was a car wreck. I didn't have high hopes for it. I didn't even mention the comet from outer space that shoots magic ninja arrows at people, and the alien comes down from the spaceship through a portal in the Buddhist temple to fight 1 or maybe 9 people every 6 years. They kind of go back and forth. I don't know what's happening. Also, the alien can see in infrared, of course.
Of course.
And of course, we have the gratuitous alien seeing in infrared scenes, because this is also Predator, apparently. I don't. Jujitsu, watch it just because I want other people to feel my pain, please. I don't want to be the only one. And I was telling Ryan earlier that sometimes I really like to watch bad movies because it reminds me that they exist, and not every movie is good, because you can get in a rut where you're only watching good movies and you forget how terrible some are. And this one reminded me of that last night. And then I actually watched a movie that was also not very good, but compared to this was like Schindler's List. Honest Thief, starring Liam Neeson. Have you seen this yet?
Yes, I've seen it.
Very average in my opinion. But compared to Jujitsu, it's like the best movie I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
I would say that there were some parts of the performance and writing that were a little bit iffy for me. Just like really fully investing and believing that the story could play out like it did, I had some issues with. But I did like the concept that this retired bank robber decides that he wants to give all the money he had stolen back because he wants to be with this lady. And maybe the most unbelievable thing is that the character is saying he stole $9 million and spent $0 of it.
Yeah.
Which, like, even if you're the most honest person in the world, I think you're probably buying yourself like at least a new car. I don't know.
Yeah.
So just like some of the initial premise issues for me made it a little difficult, but it, like I said, it was the Shawshank Redemption compared to Jujitsu. So if you want to appreciate Honest Thief, maybe watch Jujitsu before it. And then you can have the exact same experience I had, because I've mentioned all this stuff, but you need like the visuals as all this is happening just make it so much better worse. You need to watch, you need to see these things. And yeah, Jujitsu. Nicolas Cage continues to find ways to make money.
Indeed.
That's pretty much all that it is, I think.
Indeed. Hey, more power to him, man.
I mean, hey, he's doing well, because I think the two movies I've been most passionate about when we reviewed things on this podcast were Color Out of Space and Jujitsu. They both starred Nicolas Cage being an absolute insane lunatic. So
it is what he does.
Keep doing what you're doing, man.
All right. So let's just quickly we'll do what we're planning on watching this week. So I am planning on finally watching Searching. I tried to get my wife to watch it last week and she wasn't into it. So I'm going to try again this week. And
he's searching for someone else to watch it with. But
yeah. Boom, boom. So yeah, Searching. Looking forward to watching Searching. And again, I think I mentioned it last week, but it's a unique movie that all the scenes are shot as though they're through a device, whether a phone, a computer, a webcam, any of those type of things. It's a disappearance of a daughter mystery type movie. And then the next thing I want to watch is I want to watch The Bourne Legacy. A couple weeks ago, I went through the original Bourne trilogy, but I couldn't find The Bourne Legacy anywhere. So now I'm going to try and get it from the library and watch The Bourne Legacy. I think it's underrated. I think it's a pretty good movie, and I would like to see Jeremy Renner back in another Bourne movie with his character.
Yeah, as I mentioned last week about the classic monster movies that are coming out on YouTube from Universal, The Mummy, Dracula, Bride of Frankenstein, all these things, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. There's a whole bunch of movies that are all coming out this weekend coming up, and they'll be out for a week. So I recommend watching them. They are classics. I've not seen all of them, so I'm looking forward to watching them. So this weekend, in a couple days here, I'm planning on watching some classic scary movies and laughing at the fact that people thought they were scary.
Awesome. All right. Well, everyone, that is the show. We are so glad that you've stuck with us the whole way to the end. And since you did, that means you're obviously a fan of this podcast. Now, will you do us a favor and rate and subscribe to the podcast? Share it with your friends. Let them know that this is a great way to get their movie information. And we have a great time doing it. So definitely check out filmforfans.com. We've got the articles about what to watch out. We've got other reviews and other things on there that you have to check out. So make sure you visit filmforfans.com. And also our YouTube channel. We started putting up our first cut review, where we take our review from a movie from the podcast, we cut it up into a shorter sequence. And so our video review of Wonder Woman 84 is now up on our YouTube channel. So make sure you check that out. And until next time, enjoy the movies.
Let's just say it's not just about plutonium levels anymore. I can't even say the word right.
On that note,
bye, everybody.